Hello, everybody. This is Alana.
And this is Megan.
And welcome to Tea Time Crimes.
Hello, everyone. If you didn't notice, we are switching roles. If you missed our
It's
latest
Freaky
episode.
Friday, Tuesday.
That's right. So we are switching. I did not have time to research a case this week, so Alana graciously stepped in and said, I'll do it. And she did it. I'll do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll do it, she said. So thank you so much. And I'm going to be doing a tea review, and she's going to be doing a case, which I know nothing about. Unless I've heard. What if I've heard about it already?
I mean, you might have, but you're not going to know all the details. I'll tell you that right now.
You have a much harder job than I do on that surprise element, right? You're like, oh, the biggest case in history. Never heard of it.
Literally.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I never heard of that person. Okay. Well, should I jump into my tea review?
Unless we don't have any other news.
I have no news. Do you have a cat or a possum?
No, there's no new animals.
Are the kittens still there?
No, Mom moved them.
Oh, what rude. Why'd she move them?
Well, there's a tabby around here that maybe was bugging them, and he might be the dad. I don't know.
Rude.
Maybe he was just trying to visit his kids.
There's a real custodial situation happening in your chicken coop.
Yeah, I know.
And they're going to have to go to kitty cat court to work it out.
Court. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, okay. I guess I'll get going.
What tea do you have for us today?
It's from Twinings.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's nothing special. It's literally what I drink every morning or some variation of it. Today, I have Lady Grey.
Oh.
Delightfully blended with bergamot and lemon flavor. And it's flavored black tea with the U. So, you know. And yeah, black tea, orange peel, lemon peel, natural citrus flavors with other natural flavors.
It's a classic Lady Grey. It's
yeah,
that does it.
I only have Earl Grey, Lady Grey, or
you're into the bergamot
English breakfast.
Yeah,
and so I prepared it without anything in it, and then I brought all of my things to pour in it because I don't care what you think. So go ahead and judge me. Right now, it is just plain. There's nothing in it. I'm going to taste it fresh and see what my palate discerns, and then I'm going to add about a quart of milk. Okay, let me smell it.
She got a Tea Time Crime mug. Can be found on our store at teatimecrimes.show.
You can smell the citrus.
Okay.
But it's delightful.
So you're really smelling the lady parts of the Lady Grey.
Correct. But in a nice spritzy way.
Oh, whoa. What's going on over there?
It's not overpowering. How are you just as bad on the other side of it?
I'm sorry.
All right. I'm going to taste it. Oh, God. She's a bitter lady.
Oh, yeah. It needs a little milk.
Oh, it needs a lot of milk, and I'm going to put honey in it. So you can taste the black tea, obviously. Whenever I drink tea without milk or honey, it always feels too dry to me, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes my teeth feel weird. So do what you will with that. So I'm going to put honey in. You can't see how much off screen, which is probably best for your health.
Oh, boy.
And I brought some cream.
Some cream.
Just like a quart.
In a measuring cup. Like what do you call that for realsies?
A measuring cup. That was accurate.
Is that what it is? That
a glass measuring cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was simply so that it wouldn't spill on the computer.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Because I didn't have a gravy boat to put it in.
Gravy boat.
Excuse me. Okay, so I've added honey and cream. A proper cup of tea.
Crush the delicate.
Oh, it's delicious. It's perfect now. It's perfect. And I waited to have tea with you. It's creamy. It's warm. I need the caffeine. Are you laughing at me? Because I said creamy.
I'm just wincing.
Well,
I'm wincing at the creamy warm.
You say thrusting and moist and juicy, so here we are. You can still taste the bergamot and the citrus, but it blends better for me with the cream in it.
Okay.
I will give it a ladylike thumbs up.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Look at you.
Thank you.
Be a professional tea reviewer.
Well, we took some wrong turns on this, I think.
Okay, well, sip on that.
I still have some cream left over.
I'm going to need some ladylike cream over there to deal with this
Gross.
episode. That was... Okay.
Not what you meant. Moving on.
All right. Ready? We don't know how this is going to go.
I've never been more ready.
All right. I got a whole thing. Okay. I was planning on covering 2 women today, but I fell so deep into one.
Yes, that's what happens.
That it took over the whole episode.
Ladies are everywhere today.
All right. So today I'm taking the wheel. Step aside, Jesus. We're going to take our Tea Time Crime Spotlight down to the South, the Deep South, to a swampy, how does it exist place called Louisiana, where I happen to currently reside. We're going to meet an interesting lady today. I cannot make the stuff up here. There are some wild things coming your way. I'll let you make your own judgments.
Yes.
All right. So it's New Orleans, proper 1800s. And it's pronounced New Orleans, folks, not New Orleans or Nolans. But real quick,
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Am I doing it?
Whenever I fly out of MSY or into MSY, I always know if the crew is local or not because they'll say New Orleans. I mean, we're going to really get into the scene because I want you to understand and picture this, but you've been to New Orleans and actually pretty warm month, right?
Yeah, I've been in June.
And it was hot. It was
sticky,
humid, and just imagine that back in the 1800s. There's so much stank, the chaos.
And very unladylike because you've got all of those dresses on and it's very,
awful.
One might say moist and humid.
One would.
Yeah.
But first, let me introduce you to Mary Jane Jackson, also known as Bricktop. Have you heard of her?
Oh my God, no. And I'm loving that that's her name.
All right. I'm doing fist pumps. Who Herbert Asbury in The French Quarter described her as a husky, full-bodied strumpet whose mop of flaming red hair had earned her the sobriquet of Bricktop. So if that doesn't make you want to sign up for friendship or follow her in a cult-like fashion, I don't know what might.
I hope she's not a vicious murderer and I can get behind her murders or her crimes because I'm
this paragraph.
Oh, bummer. I'm really loving the description.
Yes.
Stout strumpet.
Even knowing all I know about her, I kind of love her.
Oh boy. Well, but you're easier to be like, it's fine.
Yeah, correct.
You overlook a lot of the murder.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see. I want you to make your own judgment.
I will.
Further, according to Asbury, she was never bested in a brawl against man or woman. And during her career as a prostitute in New Orleans, she killed 4 men and stabbed many others between the years of 1856 and 1861. So she's a serial killer, technically, and one of the America's first female ones to boot.
Okay, but I mean, let's unpack this a little bit.
Exactly.
Also, how do you feel about the Crimean War that was going on during that time?
You know what? It didn't have as much an effect as what's coming up in a certain other war. But coming. I have a list of important dates. I'm ready. I'm fucking ready. But actually, the Crimean War wasn't on there, so fuck.
Wow. I literally just typed in the date you said. War, 1854.
So before we get into this amazing Bricktop's life, I want to talk about what New Orleans was like a little bit more in the 1800s to understand the characters a little bit better, why she might be the way she is. So what was it like during this time in New Orleans? It was better for some than others, obviously, as it always is. Overall, New Orleans is actually doing pretty well as a city, and white people with money are doing okay. New Orleans is a pretty big deal. In 1840, it's the 3rd largest in the nation. City in the nation and the largest city in the South. I had no idea it was that big, but it makes sense because it's a port, right? So all the industry. and had a population of 58% white, 23% enslaved Black people, and 19% free people of color. There's gaps in the census data. I can't imagine. Like, I'm just picturing like a little guy going around trying to type up census data, like, and getting things from people. And it's like, oh, we'll just skip this neighborhood. And so up until 1830, the white population actually spoke French mostly, which makes sense, knowing the history.
Bonjour. Yeah.
Bonjour. Industries like sugar and cotton were booming in New Orleans. We know why, don't we? The city of New Orleans was the largest slave market in America, with more than 135,000 people purchased and sold. Ugh. So it's a great reminder to say, fuck slave owners. All right, but I want to get to the specific setting of our story. I never knew that this was a thing. So I know more than anyone that New Orleans has its flaws today. But as we always say, it's better to live now. And that couldn't be more true when it comes to this area where Bricktop made her living.
Oh, Bricktop. What's her real name?
Mary Jane Jackson.
Oh, also good. Okay.
Yes, also good. And we're going to cover some other names of her compatriots, which I just love it. So I'm trying to remember your visit here if you were in this area, but you walk down Decatur Street in the French Quarter along the Mississippi, and you'll find the French Market.
Okay.
I don't know if you walked through it, but this is where you can find, there's a lot of different stands. They sell masks. There's a lot of different food, such as Loretta's beignets, which are the best beignets in the city.
Yeah.
I said it, and you're welcome. When you visit here, go get Loretta's beignets. There's 2 locations. This is not sponsored by Loretta, but
What's up, Loretta?
What's up?
You told me to avoid the French Quarters and to not wear open-toed shoes. Fear I might step and vomit.
Correct.
That's what you told me.
Or piss or
a bodily fluid. So I just skipped that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But you didn't tell me about Loretta's, to be fair. So I'm a little mad now.
I didn't, but you had a busy schedule.
Yeah.
Next time.
Continue.
But back in the 19th century, the French Market area was known as Gallatin Street. So it was one of the first areas of like notorious vice and the red light district, the seedy part of town that the genteel society stayed far away from.
Oh, so sex and sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. The streets were slick with grime, blood, excrement from all kinds of animals, including humans. Even the police, non-corrupt police, didn't like to patrol the streets unless they were in groups. So that's good. The corrupt ones loved it. So they used their badge to like get money from people, inappropriate services, that kind of thing.
Maybe they're just really into the poop.
Maybe. There's a lot of it. Like I was reading something, it was like, yes, in the same house that they serve the boarders, they would breed dogs and chickens. I'm like, that sounds right. That sounds right.
That tracks. It sounds like what we described the streets of London around this time period.
Yeah. But just throw a French spin on it. Maybe better food, but stinkier. Yeah. So if you're an innocent who wandered into this part of town, good luck to you. It's not for the faint of heart.
You're going to eat so many beignets.
And supposedly, you'd love this. This area is one of the most haunted out of New Orleans.
Yes.
And
I made Alana go on a graveyard tour with me.
Yes, but it was cool. And it was during the day.
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm not a monster.
There are like crazy tours at night, though.
I know. I wasn't even going to entertain that idea with you. Like in broad daylight, will you go to a cemetery with me?
Still hesitated, but it was really cool. So I do encourage that. When you go, there's a lot of tours here. Picture all of these lovely qualities: poopy, humidity, body odor, and then combine it with hardened folks like pirates and prostitutes and murderers and thieves.
Sex workers.
Yes. Sorry, prostitutes is all over what I'm reading.
I know, but it's very dated. Sex. I don't know if do pirates have a preferred term these days?
Any pirates listening, please let us know.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. And it's all in awfully constructed buildings, like dilapidated wooden buildings. Think about the mold that gets into these. I mean,
Ew, you're really going deep. Are you a home inspector on your off time? This is really getting into it.
I need you to know how it feels there. Also, side note, did you know that the French Quarter burnt down twice, but then the Spanish took it over from the French, and then they initiated new building codes and regulations. So, buen trabajo, Spain. The French is like, I don't know why it keeps burning down. Let's build it with wood again.
Toilet caught on fire.
Do you think they have wooden toilets? Oh my God.
No, I'm sure it's chamber pots. Or holes. Or cesspools.
Yeah, I remember that cesspool episode. Okay. During this time, prostitution is supposedly New Orleans' second highest industry, like the actual city.
Yeah.
And so the courts and the cops aren't too harsh on them because they kind of need it in the city. In Brothels, Depravity, and Abandoned Women, Illegal Sex in Antebellum, New Orleans by Judith, Kelleher, Schafer. Schafer lists some of the rather interesting names these working women took on, such as Irish Mary, French Mary, Red Mary, New York Mary, Shell Road Mary, and Pittsburgh Mary. Y'all need to get a little bit more creative, like my girl Ellen Fleming, who was also known as Judy Come Home with the Soap.
What? Judy Come Home with the Soap?
Yeah, that was her sex worker name.
Did she bathe gentlemen?
I don't know. But I just I stumbled upon that and I died.
Judy Come Home. Sounds like a song. Judy Come Home with the Soap. Judy Come Home with the Soap. Judy Come Home with the Soap and wash me all night long. Just made that up. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm gonna need to know the origin and everything about this.
Well, I don't have
Google is not. Google said what? So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, read that book because Judy Come Home with the Soap.
Why are they all named Mary? They just
I'll get into that. Maybe there's
a nod to the Bible.
A lot of immigration happening right now, especially from Ireland. So it could be that. I don't know.
Do you know? So my grandmother was Canadian. Mm-hmm. Do you know? I didn't find this out till I was a teenager. We always called her Claire. That's her middle name. All of her sisters were named Marie.
What?
And all of her brothers were named Joseph. And then they would all go by their middle names.
Really?
Isn't that the weirdest? I remember the day I found that out. Mind blown. I'm sorry, your parents just named you all the same thing?
Wow. So if they needed
Mary
everybody at the table, they're like, Mary, Joseph, dinner.
Well, it was Marie, which is also a little confusing, but I assume it was Mary and Joseph. And then they would all just go by their middle names.
That's one way to do it.
So this is what it reminds me of. Maybe the same naming convention was happening here. They're
Maybe.
We're like, we'll give you a cool first nickname, but then after that, you're all Mary.
You're on your own there. Another really interesting fact from Schafer's book was that brothels often had free women of color. I mean, who really knows what choice was made or if it's forced upon them by circumstance?
Sure.
You could be free and have no other choice, right?
I think you could make that argument for all of the women there.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to this, free Black men and even enslaved people were recorded buying the services of these women, which is just, it blew my mind considering how big slave trade and racism was. It was just interesting that they were allowed, just considering how awful racism was.
Isn't it interesting, what people will make concessions for?
Yes.
You can't do anything on your own free will, and you're enslaved to me, but you can go to the brothel.
Right.
Because I understand that.
By service of a sex worker. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I think I've set the scene pretty in depth, right? Dirty streets.
Yeah, I needed to squirt some perfume in here.
Yeah.
Maybe squirt's not the right word. Spray is better.
Please don't squirt anything right now. But also the mosquitoes, yellow fever, and venereal disease.
Stop it. Okay, now you're just being mean.
Big time. No, it matters.
Yeah, it matters because it's inevitable. And there's penicillin is not yet happening.
It's rough times. I'm just glad they didn't even know the concept of air conditioning because would be all they could think of at this time.
But they get a disease and then they say, hey, why don't you have some mercury? Call us in the morning.
That's going to do you great over your life.
Good luck. Hope you don't go insane from the syphilis.
Lovely. Okay. Lordy. Anyhow, back to Mary Jane Bricktop Jackson. So, yes, Mary is New Orleans' first female serial killer, but we don't all start as murderous full-body strumpets.
Oh, Excuse us, Jolly Jane. We have previously given you that title.
Sorry.
But it looks like we found...
For New Orleans?
Oh, they said U.S.
No, first New Orleans.
But she is before Jolly Jane. She is before Jolly Jane.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Jolly Jane was a much more serial killer. Like,
Jolly Jane really
let's revisit this at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And like, she doesn't feel like a serial killer. Anyways.
Oh, goodness. Oh, good. I mean, I know it was several gentlemen, but okay, go ahead.
So let's try to peel back the layers of history and grime to see where this heck of a woman came from. There isn't much on this lovely woman, so I've gathered the context I could through different newspapers and different sources. She was born on Gridden Street, which I can't even find in New Orleans anymore. It doesn't exist.
Oh, they must have renamed.
Around 1836. And unfortunately, she found her way into sex work at the age of 14.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's not even finding your way into something. That's needing to do something.
Exactly.
That's survival.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about that her whole life was survival.
Yeah.
I said the scene earlier. Can you imagine growing up in this area, living in it, and then servicing the patrons of this area? It's at 14.
At
it's
14.
heinous. It's heinous. A lot of the female sex workers were actually immigrants, like I was talking about, especially Irish immigrants. Because think of the time, the potato famine was in full force during the 1800s.
That's why I was assuming she was Irish, but
yes, that's what I assumed as well. There's other immigrants at this time, including Germans and actually Filipinos, which I didn't know we had a Filipino population here. New Orleans has always been a really cool melting pot of cultures. It changes and morphs as time goes on. I recommend you look it up so I don't bore you with the history lesson. Anyway, so was Mary's mother one of those immigrants, one of the Irish immigrants? Who's to say? There's not really a lot of information. There's so many Marys, as we know.
Clearly. It is a popular name.
So yeah, life was hard for these women. Like we say, so early to go into that kind of work. We know the conditions. And unfortunately, the average sex worker worked for about 4 years until they faced an early death. The most common cause was disease. Remember, I mentioned venereal disease. Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's not even just limited to the girls. Obviously, it's men passing and receiving it too who are confabulating.
Nice throwback. And
unfortunately, but not surprising, the second most common form of death was murder. So either
first was venereal disease?
Yeah.
Or just diseases?
First was just disease, but
okay.
All the sources I read talked a lot about venereal disease, especially because we're talking about sex workers.
Man, and then murder.
And then murder, like from a client or the owner of a brothel. So it's pretty fucking brutal time to be a sex worker.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. But Mary beat the odds. According to my research, she made her living as a sex worker for 11 years, almost triple the life expectancy for these girls.
She's the ripe age of 25, if my math is correct.
Yep. Ugh. And she kind of turned the tables on the whole death thing, too. So
she just owned option number 2.
She did.
She's like, I can't do much about the syphilis, but watch out.
But watch out.
Here comes the murder.
So, we talked about it. With such ruthless conditions, survival becomes the sole and primary focus.
Yeah.
We can imagine how she, quote, grew up, and we can imagine how that might have formed the woman that she became.
Yeah.
Who knows what she faced before 14? I mean,
I know.
And there are some reports that she started her career as a sex worker as young as 12. It ranged from 12 to 14, and it's just like, that's so bad.
I bet her parents weren't even alive. She was probably on her own.
Probably. Yeah. So how does one become the, quote, scourge of Gallatin Street?
Rude.
She had help and a short temper. So there are varying sources that Bricktop may have owned a brothel herself, but all sources agree that she worked in them. She went from brothel to brothel, including one of the worst of them, the notorious dance house where anything and everything went. But even Bricktop was too much for this brothel.
Oh,
she got kicked out. So she did a lot on her own, a freelancer before the word became popular.
She can get her 1099s in.
So,
oh man,
let's cover the highlight reel of Mary Jane Jackson. Early in her career, unsure of the exact year, she became a hit with the men, despite her temper, and got romantically involved with the owner of a saloon. It actually lasted 3 years, this relationship. I know. But eventually, he threw her out for one reason or another. And that didn't sit right with Mary. So naturally, she came back and beat her ex-lover so severely that she ripped off an ear and half of his face.
What?
Now, that's what I call a bad breakup. Yikes.
I'm sorry. How do you rip off a human's face?
I mean, you have tools, you have nails. If you have force of will.
Do you know what she used?
We don't know.
I mean, a whole ear?
Yeah.
She Van Gogh'd him.
She is, yeah. She Van Gogh'd him.
My
True.
goodness. And she was what, 17?
Yeah, something like that.
My goodness.
Yeah.
She would have been expelled from high school.
Just expelled, that's it. With a firm telling off.
That was enough, Mary Jane.
Later on, Bricktop created one
Did he survive?
Yes, he survived. That's not her first murder. That was just a nice example of her
it was just
savagery.
To warm up. Okay.
Yes. And you'll hear the rest of the stories, but who the fuck knows that wasn't recorded in between all these events?
Right?
Yeah. So later on, Bricktop created one of the toughest street gangs alongside fellow sex worker Delia Swift, a.k.a. Bridget Fury. How cool is this name? I want this name. It's a superhero name.
Bridget Fury. Yeah,
Bridget
that's good.
Fury.
She really upped the name game. She wasn't like, my name's Tupperware Mary.
Fuck you, Marys.
Yeah. My name's Teacup Mary. Hi.
Yeah. So yeah, Bricktop and Fury created this gang. It was actually the first all-female gang in New Orleans as well as the U.S. with some other rough and tumble sex workers.
What were they called?
I couldn't find the name. I'm like, they have to have an awesome name.
They must have had a name.
I know.
Fury's Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Bricktop's Bitches.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm out.
I'm trying to think there's some other gangs this time that are male gangs. Is like the Oak Club gang or something
The Oak
like
Club
that.
gang? What are they, the Hardy Boys? That's ridiculous. Oh, we look at leaves in our spare time. That is a terrible
I think they
gang
club
name.
people.
Oh, with oak trees?
With oak branches.
Okay, well, that's like a dark turn. Sorry. But still, like, maybe branding wasn't so much of a thing.
Maybe not.
Word of mouth was the main source there.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, people were terrified of this gang. I'd love to get more into Bridget Fury, but we don't have time. She was originally from Ohio and fled to New Orleans in 1856 after a prison escape. Her crime, killing a client.
Oh, whoops. I was hoping it was something like wearing pants, but that's a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
I was rooting for you, Bridget.
Incidentally, this is when Bricktop's murdering started in 1856. So I don't know if there's some connection here.
Her and Bridget bring out the best in each other.
Exactly.
Clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she'd be like 20. Bricktop would be 20-ish years old if her date of birth is accurate.
Which is really 60.
Yes. Yes.
Times.
Yeah. We say dog years, but maybe it's like 1800s
years. Yeah. She's.
Yeah.
I always think if we traveled back in time, they'd be confused by people's ages today.
Yes. It would make zero sense.
Like, I'm sorry, you have all your teeth. And what's happening? How old are you?
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
They would be so confused. Okay. So fast forward past some more fights and brawls to Bricktop's first murder. So we know she's a sex worker, and this sex worker demands respect, as all should. And in 1856, a man called her a whore. So she didn't take kindly to that. And what did she do? She clubbed the man to death. A natural reaction.
With an oak branch?
It didn't say with what, but I kept thinking of those Oak boys.
Yeah.
Maybe they were in the same bar and she snagged one.
I feel like there might be more to that story, because I'm not saying that you should call a woman that, but I imagine that was a word that kind of floated around a lot in the 1800s.
I bet there was something more to that. At first, when I was looking into a lot of these events, and if there were more details, like in a book or a newspaper, there was so much more. But even the newspapers hide stuff because they hate
they won't say words.
Yes.
That are real.
So it's like you're reading between the lines a lot. So he called her a whore, but I'm guaranteeing you there's like loads of disrespect and perhaps some violence.
Yeah, I wonder if
her life was violence.
I wonder if he attacked her in some way and then called her a name. But also clearly she has a short fuse, so
yes,
he could have sneezed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean she did tear half of her ex-lover's face off. So
an ear is in her pocket. So
it's a good luck charm. And okay, just a year later, she was.
Did she get caught for that?
No, this is the thing.
They were.
She doesn't get in. She barely gets in trouble. This is it's wild.
Who took care of the body?
Who knows? Maybe some of her sex worker friends. Maybe her gang. But remember, non-corrupt cops don't really patrol this area because they're terrified.
Oh. So how do they know that she murdered him?
How did she know that she murdered who? This guy,
man she murdered.
I don't know. It was reported, but
nobody cared.
There's a lot of times where these sex workers or other people in this area will get like booked up for a second and then just let go. Like you'll just wait till later. It's a wild story.
Wow. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So just a year later, she was mingling with some lovely folks, as she tended to do. One was named Charles Reeves, better known as Long Charlie, because he was 7 feet tall.
Good Lord. That's very tall for the 1800s.
Yeah.
I mean,
he
for
had
now,
been
too.
involved with some pretty awful crimes, such as attacking a brothel, smashing it to bits, beating the women inside, and threatening to burn it down. So, high-class chap.
Well,
love to get to know him.
Not today, tall boy.
Exactly. This is so weird. While at an establishment, Mary made a very strange and scientific bet that I'd gamble he was taking as metaphorical. She told him, "I bet you would fall forward if I stabbed you." Of course, the 7-foot-tall man laughed, and then he said, "No, I'd fall backwards." So naturally, Bricktop pulled a knife and stabbed him,
obviously, twice
in the side and once in the groin. And guess what? He fell forward. She was right. But again,
she also went for the groin. I think you drop to your knees and then you fall forward once you get stabbed in that area.
Yeah, she might have cheated a little bit.
Yeah, but he didn't. She didn't specify. That's on you. That's on you, sir.
Exactly.
You didn't say. Yikes.
I don't think we're grieving his death so much because he seemed like an awful person.
Still, what a way to set that up.
I know. She is pretty smart. I mean, again, survival. So she's figured out.
Is that what you're calling it?
Ways to be cunning.
I feel like has some impulse control issues.
Also that. I mean, especially this case. Especially this one.
Man. Okay.
What's really cool and fascinating. I don't know if cool is right. The murder weapon. She made a custom knife. Not just normal knife. This was double-bladed. A 5-inch blade at each end, and the center was like mounted in this beautiful crafted German silver. And this was her classic iconic weapon. And if you're gonna be a villain, snag yourself or make one. This iconic weapon, go all the way. It's neat, and it'll show up later.
Okay.
Like we talked about, it's strange because according to records, our dear Mary has not served real time yet. Again, might get booked for a second, but there's no record of prison time yet. Maybe it's never reported to the right people. Again, we know law enforcement's not the strongest.
Maybe they don't want to deal with her in prison.
Maybe.
They're like, you know what? You're better off over here.
Imagine what would happen in prison. All right, so in 1859, Bricktop was connected to another murder, the fatal stabbing of Laurent Fleury. There are many different reports on this one.
Is that a man or a woman?
It's a man.
Okay.
Mary was in the newspapers a little bit during her life, but barely at all. This was the biggest case for her.
Okay. Why was this guy important to the public?
They weren't really in the bad area of town, is my guess.
She stepped outside the grid of...
They were still in the French Quarter, but they're out of that Gallatin Street
where
she spent most of her time. Yes, exactly. So there are a lot of different reports on this one, and this is what I can untangle from all of the articles and like legend word of mouth. So it's election day. It's 1859, and Mary and a few of her friends of ill repute, Americus Williams, who witnesses designated as the big one in the blue dress, rude, and Ellen Collins, as well as some men, they're riding about town 2 to 3 p.m.
I'm sorry, wait. It's voting day and there's a woman named America?
Yes.
And she's big?
Well, her name is Americus, but she is referenced to as America.
Okay. And she's wearing a big blue dress.
She's the big one in the blue dress.
Got you. So she's a full-figured gal in a blue dress. Her name is America. It happens to be voting day. And she's with another woman named Ellen.
Yes.
This is very patriotic. Is she wearing red?
No, actually, okay. Ellen is the thin one in the blue dress.
They're both wearing blue. Okay. Yes. Are they sex workers?
It wasn't clear, but it seems likely.
Okay.
Just based
so they're
on
like a dynamic duo.
Yes. Okay. And then Mary's there too, and they're buds.
Oh,
and she's not wearing a blue dress.
She's
She's not wearing a blue dress. All I know is because like it wasn't designated that way, and that's how people were able to pick her out. They didn't say what color the dress was, though. It just wasn't
probably
blue.
Red.
Probably.
Yeah.
Our Bricktop strumpet.
All right.
So they're riding about town 2 to 3 p.m. And this is so strange to me, but again, different times. So the cab driver saw a beer house on the corner of St. Peter and Rampart Streets. And it was closed, but he saw the owner inside and he's like, hey, can we come in for a drink? The cab driver, the cabbie suggested they have. It's weird.
Well, I think maybe the cab driver was hoping to entertain some of these ladies.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. This cab driver is a spine of steel, as you'll see later.
Oh, goodness.
That's sarcasm. So they have some drinks. The women are reportedly pretty drunk at this time.
Nice.
And again, I'm trying to peel back the layers in the article because they hate to report on indecency and that kind of thing. They hate it.
Yeah.
Especially in back then. So there's a lot of the articles talk about the violence starting because Americus, I'm just going to call her America. Well, I'm going to try. It's weird.
Okay.
She picks up a case knife from a table.
What's a case knife?
It's like a nice cooking knife.
Why is it on a table? I think first we need to get health codes going in here. Okay.
Yes.
She's got a big knife.
She's got a big knife.
She's wearing a blue dress. I see it so clear.
Big knife and a blue dress. I think witnesses and people involved are using this as a reason to start the violence, but I'm piecing it together. So the girlies are in here with their guy friends having some brewskis. Mr. Sidensall is the beer house owner.
I like that.
It also seems to be a boarding house.
Okay.
It's called, in all the articles, it's called a boarding house, a coffee house, and a beer house. So,
Yeah. There was a lot of multi-purpose stuff back in the day.
Yeah. So one of the residents is Laurent Fleury. He's a blacksmith. I think they're both of Dutch ancestry.
Okay.
Maybe they immigrated over. So America picks up this knife actually from the barkeep. Again, different reports. Some say from the table, some say from the barkeep. It's not Sidensall. There's like a young barkeep that's there, even though it's closed. And she starts sharpening it.
Like you do, yeah.
like one does. Sidensall is like, what are you doing with that? Put it down. And she's like, I'm not going to steal it. One of my guy friends will pay for it. And I just imagine imagine the shitty treatment that these women get all the time, always suspected of something. She's probably maybe a little defensive because she's treated like trash or expected to like only do bad things. And then this is the only mentioned once, but I guarantee you it's the heart of it. Sidensall says that the women commenced acting very indecently, and that's why he wanted to kick them out. I only found it one place, and it was his witness report.
So that could be anything.
I know.
They could have started stripping on the table. They could have showed an ankle.
Exactly.
There's a wide range of indecency at this point.
Exactly. Apparently, there was like some report that some America was in, and like she was yelling for one of the boarding house members, and then that started pissing them off. Again, it's very unclear about this piece, and everybody just wants to talk about the knife that America picked up and wanted to buy. And so Flurry, the blacksmith, who seemed to have no love for these women, starts helping Sight and Saul kick out these indecent drunk women, and a scuffle ensues.
Yeah, they're probably pretty drunk. It sounds just...
Oh, they are drunk.
Like drunk behavior.
They are absolutely drunk. So the cabbie, remember our cabbie friend?
He's his idea. Yeah, yes, that's why they're here.
This is his idea. He said that, like I said, America did some shouting, which led to improper behavior. And then Flurry knocked America down. And then Mary was like, bitch, don't touch my girl. But before she could get to Flurry, Sight and Saul, the owner, upset with, the improper behavior, grabs Mary by the neck and shoves her outside into the yard.
Okay, so hold on.
Yes.
The man who's about to die pushed America onto the floor. And Bricktop said, no, thank you. And the owner threw her out.
Exactly.
I'm guessing not for long.
That's when she pulled her badass knife dagger that we talked about before.
Where does she keep it? Against her leg?
In her bodice.
Oh.
In her bodice, yeah. Yeah.
That's underwire.
That actually tied her to actually get convicted. So she pulled out her badass dagger and slashed him, Sight and Saul, across the forehead. And witness reports it's a bad gash. And then she kept beating him with her hands. So meanwhile, Flurry is supposedly holding America down and beating her with a stick. Maybe from the Oak Club boys. Who knows?
Yeah. A lot of sticks.
A lot of sticks. But that is when our brave hero, the cab driver, left.
Well, I mean, he just wanted a beer. What do you want him to do? He's like, whoops, I did not sign up for this.
Oh, God.
I was hoping to get a venereal disease and have a beer. That was it. I did not want number 2 on the list.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. From other reports and witnesses, because they're in the yard now.
Okay.
So they're outside-ish. It's like the building is... Oh, I can't see anything.
The building
There's
is
a building, and then it goes into a yard, and the yard is gated.
Okay.
Okay.
So they're fenced in.
Yes. So from other reports and witnesses, it seems like Mary was able to get to America, and Mary starts stabbing Flurry.
Is America injured, or she just fallen?
She's bleeding from the head. Yeah.
Oh, that's not going to look good on that dress.
I know. Well, patriotic.
That's true.
The 2 women got out of the yard and behind the gate. Flurry and Sight and Saul, both profusely bleeding themselves, go upstairs.
So he dies after.
Yes. He's not dead. He's not dead yet.
Ooh, he bleeds out. Oh, poor.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
Flurry. So the girls are still drunk, obviously. I mean, adrenaline for sure. But picture these 3 women outside this gate. Mary's holding her double-bladed dagger. Americus is beating at the gate door. And Ellen is like, girlies, we need to leave. There's a crowd. And she's trying to pull the girls and let's get the fuck out of here. Poor Ellen.
And she's the weakest.
Ellen, choose better friends.
Yeah. She's the weakest. She can't get... I would have just run, Ellen. I would have been like, excuse me, cab driver. I'm going to hitch a ride with you. Thank you.
So ridiculous. So crowds gathering. Sight and Saul, the owner, runs to go get his revolver for self-protection. He feels like his life is in danger, which is fair.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And so he goes to the balcony of the building with this revolver.
Yeah, get a good aerial shot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The assistant deputy street commissioner, John McClelland, sees this crowd running and is like, oh, there's probably a fight, trying to figure out what's going on. So he follows the crowd and he sees Sight and Saul come out to the balcony with the revolver. And John is scared that he's going to shoot the women. So he shoots a pistol in the air to scare him off. Just it's just such a wild time.
Just absolute Wild West.
And then he goes inside, finds Flurry bleeding, and he's like, 2 or 3 girls stabbed me. And then so he tells the police to arrest the women. They try to run, but the police get them. Mr. Flurry doesn't make it.
Not very fast runners.
Yeah, not very fast.
I mean, they went inside. It's not like they could call the cops quickly. I mean, they had to walk over from wherever they were.
Yeah, it's a mess. Mary and America are bleeding from the heads.
From the heads.
They're okay. From the heads.
That is funny. From the heads.
Flurry doesn't make it. He dies at the hospital.
Yeah, because you're not. They basically are like, well, I don't know what to do for you.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
God bless.
Man. And so he was really minding his own business. That's probably also why he was not a client.
Well, he wasn't. I think he was an asshole.
He was trying to help get the drunk women.
Yeah, but he got violent real quick, it seemed. Again, we don't know the details, so they could have been awful. But like, he's like beating America with a stick.
Okay, but... Oh, he had the stick. Man, these old boys are everywhere. They're both sides, man. But based off of what you've told me so far with the ear ripping and the face ripping, I'm willing to bet that he didn't just shove Mary down and jump, or America down and jump in. I'm willing to bet that he was probably protecting himself at some point. But
they were definitely, I'm sure they egged him on. But it sounded like he jumped to it.
Well, I don't know. I meant like physically attacking him. But maybe not. I don't know.
It's really hard it's hard because there's so many different reports.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
But that was according to the cabbie.
Okay. Well, we know he's solid.
But guess what?
What?
Fleury doesn't die from the stab wounds from Mary.
What? Did he have venereal disease?
Finally got him.
They're like, just happened to be on the same day.
I mean, that's basically what happens, but we'll get there. From an unnoticed stab to the crown of the head with a pocket knife. It matters. So what did witnesses see?
Ellen?
Mary holding her dagger, and America was holding a penknife.
So it was America who killed him.
America got him in the crown of the head, found a soft part of the skull.
Oh, man.
It was she who dealt the fatal blow.
I am shocked that the medical examiner was scholarly enough to be like, you know what? There's several billion stab wounds here, and it's this one that did it.
I know.
And we can rule out the other woman.
It was a few inches into the brain. I think that's what was pretty... Sorry.
Brutal.
I read the report. Anyway, the girls are arrested.
Yeah, but America has to stay.
Yeah. America...
I wonder if her prison uniform is blue.
I don't know if they would do that for her. Ellen is let go pretty quickly. People are like,
Ellen's useless. She didn't want any of this.
She was a helpful witness.
Oh, good job, Ellen.
They go to trial, and the jury's like, yeah. And they're committing, that's what the word they use, Americus Williams for murdering Fleury, and Bricktop for the intent to kill Seidensaal. Remember the slash across the forehead? Like, he still has like a disgusting...
Knives blazing.
Yeah. She had no hesitation. I mean, she definitely helped Fleury die with the puncture wounds to the torso.
I would argue that she was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And failed.
So, however, this isn't the end to Mary's story. 5 months later, after all this shit's going down in the newspapers, there was a tiny little piece in the New Orleans Crescent, literally 2 sentences that says the following. Americus Williams and Mary Jane Jackson were tried yesterday for murder and acquitted.
Both of them?
The other charge against Mary Jane Jackson for stabbing with the intent to murder was dismissed on motion of the district attorney. What? Both charges are
America. How'd she pull that off?
All charges are dropped. Everyone's acquitted. Like, what's happening? Multiple witness reports see the women getting stabby. So, and then it's talked about, they mention manslaughter.
Yeah, you'd think thered be something.
I know. So I wonder if they thought it was more self-defense because she's a woman. Was the judge paid off? What's going on with the district attorney? Is he in cahoots with Mary's gang? What's going on? Who knows? But after all of that, like, this is the most documented murderous time, and Mary gets away. But she did have to go to parish prison while she awaited the trial.
Ooh, that must have been brutal.
Well, actually... she's not just sitting waiting. She's making the most of her prison days.
Gosh, she's having clients?
What better setting than a parish prison for a romance to bloom?
Oh, she fell in love.
That's right. Mary finds love with John Miller in prison.
I was kind of hoping it was America, but who's John Miller? Why are they in the same prison? He has to be a guard.
John Miller was a prison guard. And Mary, used her charms to get him under her thumb. But despite being a prison guard, John isn't the most honorable guy. From the New Orleans Crescent, he is, quote, a character quite notorious over at Gretna for lawlessness and bloodthirstiness.
Ooh.
That same article describes Mary as remarkable for bestial habits and ferocious manners.
I mean, it sounds like they have a lot in common, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
eHarmony would have matched them. Like, off the charts.
God. I mean, they deserve each other. John is a former boxer,
Perfect.
and I'm not sure when this happened, but apparently after a bar fight, he lost his arm.
What?
And so, yeah.
Is everything getting ripped off in these bar fights in New Orleans?
I mean, maybe things are less sharp, and so things are getting a little bit more savage.
Okay, so he has one arm.
No? I promise I'm not making this up.
Oh,
but
gosh.
he augmented the stump of his arm with an iron ball and chain, like a mace. He attached it to his stump.
So he could twirl it around and hit people
he could
with
use it as a weapon. I mean, I can't make this shit up. Like, who does that? Or maybe why don't more people do that? Well, I mean, it's probably uncomfortable. But anyways,
I know,
it blew
I think
my
it'd be
mind.
heavy, but also like it's kind of ingenious.
Yeah. It's reported in multiple sources, but who knows what could be morphed over 200 years. I don't know. So they partnered up in the streets together after a few years after her prison release. Bricktop would use her charms to lure men into alleys, and then Miller would use this body weapon to beat them into giving them their valuables.
Wow.
Yeah. Eventually, a few years later, in 1861, no time travel.
They're vampires.
What I imagine to be one of many domestic disputes.
Yeah.
Miller,
the old ball and chain used on Mary Jane.
He's going to try. Miller decides to whip Mary into submission with a cowhide whip.
Well, that's your first problem, John.
Yep. Of course, Mary turns the tables, grabs the whip, and starts whipping him bloody.
Yeah.
And then John fights back with his ball and chain. I'm just trying to imagine this fight, and it's insane. Mary grabs the chain midair.
Yeah, obviously.
And then uses it to drag him around the room and beat him.
Oh my God.
Eventually, Miller pulls a knife on her, and then Mary used that to kill him.
I mean, I'm sorry, John, but also, how many ball and chain puns do you think the two of them
my God,
used when they were beating up people?
Yep.
What did he think was going to happen?
I don't know.
Did anybody care about his murder? Or were they just like, eh? Oh
no,
my gosh.
there was, I forgot to get the quote, but it was one of the police chiefs was like, they both deserved what happened because she goes to prison, actually. So she
does.
This time, she goes to prison for a 10-year sentence. But guess what's happening during this time, kiddos? A war. Do we know what war? The Civil War. And by this time, there are already Union troops in town. And by the time Mary had served 9 months, the newly appointed military governor, General George Shipley, systematically empties the prisons with pardons.
That's an oversight, Shipley.
I know. And guess who received one of those pardons?
Obviously, Mary Jane.
Our girl. 1862. And what did she decide to do? Surprisingly enough, she pulls a smart one and she disappears. Nobody knows where. There's no trace of her.
Really?
She never resurfaces in newspapers, towns, nothing. You know, she had her fiery career in New Orleans. She's seeing the times change with the Union taking over. She's killed plenty of people, bloodied up more, and maybe she found some peace. So that's the story.
So you don't know what happened to her?
We don't know. She disappears. I know. Did she start up another female gang somewhere else? I don't know. Probably not, because she disappears.
Did she even survive?
We don't know.
For somebody that intense to go quiet, it makes me feel like she might not have survived.
She might not have. Who knows?
Option number one might have come back.
I mean, yeah, she might. The disease might have caught up to her. Who knows? But yeah, that's the story of infamous serial killer sex worker Mary Jane Bricktop Jackson. So what do you make of her?
Wow. I have so many questions. I wonder if she did have syphilis, and we know that affects your mental health.
Yeah.
And sometimes causes aggression. I
mean, I don't. Ooh,
you just belch into the microphone. I don't.
I'm pulling a Mary Jane. I don't think that's inconceivable, knowing what we know. Most girls are dying from these diseases.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also maybe she dodged that somehow, but then you're growing up. I can't imagine the life she had from 0 to 14.
Exactly. Fucked.
On every level.
every level.
From just the food that she was able to eat to the kind of abuse that she suffered.
Exactly.
And then
she had a hard fucking life.
But so did a lot of women in that time, and they were not.
Correct. We
pulling out a two-bladed knife and slashing foreheads. So there's obviously a little bit more going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's odd that she just disappeared. I would say she either died shortly after, or we should scour the papers for another nearby city of similar aggressions.
Yeah, maybe Mississippi or Alabama.
Yeah, she said, I'm out of New Orleans. I'm going to try something different.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? She doesn't feel like a serial killer.
Yeah. She feels like somebody who cannot control her temper. Because a lot of these things happen in the heat of a moment.
Yes,
they were not cold and calculated. Like
except for Long Charlie.
Except for who?
Long Charlie, or Long Falling Forward.
Right. That one was interesting.
Yeah.
Also, it sounds like a lot of it happened under the influence.
Oh, totally.
So
and she's like with these kind of people, and they're all drinking all the time.
Who knows what she's smoking?
Yeah.
And she has a short fuse, and a lot of these are brawls.
Yes.
I'm not saying like good job, but I'm saying I'm more scared of Jolly Jane. Let's put it that way.
100%.
I feel like I could.
You would never meet Mary Jane because you would not be going to Gallatin.
And if I did, I feel like I would quickly say, you know what, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah, let's go to this corner.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Exactly.
But Jolly Jane.
Just don't call her a whore.
Jolly Jane could sneak up on you.
Yeah. Oh, I just think about her eyes, Jolly Jane's eyes. If you haven't listened to the Jolly Jane episode, cue that up next.
Yeah.
It's one of our earlier ones, and it still is haunting me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fascinating.
Well, that was my debut episode.
I loved it. I would like you to do it more. Honestly, it is so nice to just show up with a cup of tea.
Welcome to my life.
God, I'm so jealous now.
Yeah.
You want to ask me who should listen?
Oh, yeah. Well, Megan, who should listen?
Borat? Is that you? People who live in Louisiana.
Yeah.
People named Mary Jane, or just Mary, clearly, because that's a popular name. People wearing blue dresses.
Yeah.
People who want to go to New Orleans and go on the graveyard cemetery tours.
Yeah.
People from the 1800s who are still alive and
stop
scaring
it.
us.
There are vampires and ghosts in the city, so.
Oh, I thought you didn't believe in ghosts.
I mean, I don't, but they are, whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, and people who have red hair.
Okay. That's a great bunch.
Yeah.
Okay. And where can people listen to us?
You want me to take back the reins? You can find us on all the platforms at Tea Time Crimes. You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com.
Yeah, I don't know. We're all mixed up now. I don't know.
I don't even know who I am at this point.
Oh my gosh, is my name Mary?
Identity crisis.
I'm gonna go put on a blue dress. I gotta go. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought of Alana in the driver's seat, and if you'd like her to do more cases like this, because I vote yes.
No.
Please. Thank you very much. All right. Maybe we'll be back next week. We'll see what the world brings us. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Mary.